Well, I have the box, actually. Where's the box at? Oh, it's on the box. Hey, Sean here from SpeedQiYi.com. I have had the mini QiYi WuQue for a little over a week now, and I have some good thoughts, some bad thoughts I'll talk to you about, but I'm going to try to adjust it right now. So when I got the puzzle and I did the unboxing, I'll have a link in the description, it turned very well. I was like, this feels like a WuQue, just mini. And it corner cut okay. It seemed a little less than what I'm used to, but that just might be adjusting tensions a little bit more or breaking it in. And so I was pretty happy about it. Magnets were a good strength too. I felt like that was all really good. Then I did some solves on it, and my times were not very consistent. They were not as good. I had some okay solves, but
wait, hold on. So it's future me here. So it's been a little over a week since that first video was made, and I made the video. By the end of it, just spoiler, it doesn't turn out that well. Some things do, but by the end, yeah, I wasn't too happy. And I made the video, edited it, and just sat on it because I was like, this doesn't make sense. So I wrote QiYi, and I'm like, I'm struggling with this. You sent me this prototype, or the testing one, or the first batch, I don't know what it is. And I've never struggled so hard trying to get a puzzle to work how I like it. Normally when they send puzzles out, they'll set them up at the factory, lubrication, all that, and send them out. And so he's like, okay, we'll just send you something, just a blank slate. No setup or anything, just send out the puzzle. I'm like, okay, I hope this is any better. And it came in, it's better. So this is a new cube, there's no lubrication on it. Tensions are actually quite tight. I haven't adjusted any tensions, haven't lubricated or anything. So what's different with it? Well, I don't know. It still has a lot of the same qualities. A bit of just general how it is. Feels like a WuQue, kind of turns like a full-size one. It's a little bit hollowy pieces. It's not super fast either. And that's kind of, sometimes people have the issues with the WuQue that it doesn't feel super fast. And really, I think the thing that I found is to not have lubrication in it. It's rare that I usually say that. There's only a couple puzzles in the past I'm like, no lubrication works really well. Owl Long Mini, I really like that with no lubrication. Now, that's not to say that that's the best way. I haven't done any setup with it, but doing about 50 solves in this, my time's about the same as my global average is on my app, and I've got some really good times on here. Like there's one that was almost a sub 40, and then I really botched up some of the last parts of that. But anyways, maybe there's still a little bit of catching on it, and I'm still having a little bit of issues. Later on in the old video, which I'll still show you most of it, I'm still going to keep that in there. I compare it to, I say how the GAN 54 wasn't like a big one that I really liked, but at times was still fine on it, and I got a little bit of catching, but it still seemed okay. Kind of what this is right now, getting a little bit of catching. It still doesn't seem to be exactly what I like with it, but my times seem fine. So with that said, I'm going to keep working with it for a little bit, and if I'm getting good times with it slightly catching, if I can figure out how to make it work a little bit more nicely, that might be a good thing. Maybe a little bit of light loop can help, like some Maru or a little bit of Lunar. But tight tensions, I think, are the way to go. With the original WuQue, that's what some other people felt as well, and I had the same thing. Once we tightened up a little bit more than what maybe stock would be, it seemed to actually work nicer. Even though corner cutting was limited with the tighter tensions, it did seem to stay a little more stable. So I've got a video probably going somewhere where you can see some solves, and you can probably, if you look close, you can see catching, but it's able to cut through it. The problem with the old video, with the first setup one, is it doesn't seem to want to cut through it, and I think actually lubrication prevented that. It made it a little bit too almost gummy for it to want to cut through, so maybe just something lighter will help. So anyways, here's sort of my new review. If you like the WuQue and it's your smaller puzzle and you're an accurate turner, go for it. If you like working with puzzles and trying to get them to set up the right way, it might be perfect. If you're not a big fan of spending a bunch of time setting it up, the full size might be a better way to go because I seem to have less issues with that. Or even like a thunderclap. My mini thunderclap is one that I use very often, and I just got a recent best on cubing time with the mini thunderclap. Oh, also before I go, tell the old me that don't tell them that the future me cut in, but tell him to get a haircut because everyone can tell his hair is thinning, and keeping it long, it just makes it more obvious. So just put that in the comment section below. Let him know that. So anyways,
I feel like it needed more weight on the outside. It felt a little bit like the pieces were almost a little too hollow, and turning it just didn't feel like it wanted to turn all the way. And I tried using some lubrication, but it still wasn't quite there. My thinking was that if I added some weights to the corners, that might help add that extra weight to the puzzle itself and help with the turning. I haven't gotten a chance to do that, but at a recent competition, someone had a WuQue Mini where they compress the springs. And I've heard of compressing the springs before, but I never really tried it. And I'm like, I've done spring swaps. I don't really need that. I'm happy with the speed of it. But then I tried it, and it was a lot better. And it was able to turn how I've been wanting it to turn. I was going to make a video on how to compress the springs, but Chris Olsen has a really good one, and I don't think I can say anything that he already didn't say in a better way. So I'll link that in the description. But I'm going to compress the springs right now on this video, and then I'm going to do some solves, and I'm going to talk to you about it after. So let's do this first. Now, one thing I'm also doing is I'm going to put the cube in a bag just so the pieces, if they start to fall, it'll help keep it together a little bit more. I have the box actually. Where's the box at? Oh, it's on the box. This is the box that the WuQue comes in, the Mini, and it's got to be one of the nicest ones. Like this, I think there's a magnet in here as well, but it's just a really satisfying, sturdy box to have. Now, I don't have a ruler that I feel like is accurate enough, so I have my caliper here. It's measuring this at about 1.25 millimeters, so I'm going to compress it just about 1 to 1.5 millimeters. Now, 1.1. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted to see. So let's put this back in here. And now I'm wondering, because the springs are normally compressed a little bit while it's in the puzzle, and I'm curious if when people say they just need a break in a cube with a few hundred solves, if this is really what's happening, it's just the springs compressing a bit. Because, you know, pieces don't really get worn out or need to be worn out like they used to. There used to be a lot of need to break in the plastic, so any of the flashing on the plastic, flashing is where those little bits from where the injection molding was, so those could be worn off. But that's not really an issue anymore. Okay, I'll tighten it there. Actually, don't know where tensions would be, but let's flip it over. Let's do yellow. And actually, I'm just going to fast forward through the rest of this, and I'm going to do some solves and then get back to you with my thoughts on the puzzle after that.
Okay, so I think I just realized my microphone in that first part of the video was just from my MacBook and not my nicer microphone, so apologize for that. But as far as tensions, they're very uneven right now. Green looks much looser. This might be slightly too loose now. This is the hard thing with the spring compression. Now, if you noticed when that first part, it's only compressed like a millimeter, not even, or maybe about 10% of what the actual spring length normally is. And one issue I have with this is that it feels like a very small turn of it causes a big difference. So I think I said this in the unboxing, just a quarter turn can make it go from too tight to too loose. Corner cutting definitely seems better now. Now, one thing also, the outer layers will feel a little more flexible, but it doesn't seem bad. So I'm going to do some solves now, see how this ends up, see what changes with it. But overall, as far as performance-wise, I like it right now a little bit more than when I first got it. Okay, so I've compressed the springs, and that made a huge difference. It felt much nicer to turn, felt much more comfortable, but it still had some issues with locking up in times I normally feel like I wouldn't. And I checked the pieces, and they're pretty much identical, to the point to where you could put
an edge piece from the mini one inside the full size and switch those, and they still work great. So they're pretty much the exact same pieces, just slimmed down. I don't know exactly what's different about it, but it definitely does not perform the exact same. And so I've tried different setups, different tensions, different lubrications. I've tried a bunch of stuff. And normally when I talk about different puzzles having different feelings, I end up saying, you know, it's just what I prefer the feeling of. And the GAN 354, I'm not a big fan of the feeling of it, but my times are nearly identical. My times are not nearly identical with this. And I've tried, you know, just slowing down, but to be more accurate, but everything just seems a little more difficult to perform. So, like, the last average of 5 that I finally did before I was like, I need to just stop and talk about this, every single solve was over a minute. And this is with me really trying. And so I switched back to the full-size WuQue, which I am not really comfortable with 62mm puzzles. In the last competition, I used a 57. That's how small that puzzle was. And my times were immediately around like high 40s, low 50s, every single solve. So I don't know what it is. Something I'm struggling with working with this. Now, with that said, there were some people at the competition that used Mini WuQue and did fine with it. But it definitely doesn't perform like the full-size one, and I don't know why. So that's my kind of review with that. It's frustrating because I really try to be positive and show the positive aspects of it and some things maybe that I don't quite like. The positive aspects of this are that it feels like a WuQue, and the speed is kind of like a WuQue. You can do that spring compression, which I think really helps. Corner cutting seems a little less than the full size, but when I went back to the full size and checked that, you know, it wasn't anything exceptional either. But this one just seems to cut through any sort of misalignments and just keeps on going. When this one feels like if it's a little misaligned, it just kind of binds up. And I don't know why that is. So if you like the WuQue and want a smaller puzzle and feel like you would like to spend some time trying to set it up and figure that out, please go for it. I'm more power to you. If it's between these two, the full size and the mini, I say get the full size. So on QiYi's, you know, for them, I still say this could easily be considered as the top 4x4. I could still see every single top solver wanting to use this one over any other one. And if it was between a lot of my 4x4s, if the size of them didn't really matter, I for sure would be going to this. And even if, you know, the competition I did before this, I picked this one over the Mini Cyclone Boys just because I felt like, you know, my performance on it was really nice. So with that said, this is one of my harder reviews to do because I was not happy with almost a single solve I ever had on it. And in the next few months, I'll still keep working on it, trying to make it nicer, figure out what I could do, maybe different lubricants, maybe other tensions. But I really feel like I've gone through the whole gambit within this last week trying to set this thing up. So with that said, thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Hit like, subscribe for more content like this in the future. And as always, stop by speedqbview.com for more news and reviews.